Hey, welcome to the battlefield to the boardroom. You're here with Colonel Garth and Corey Deutsch. And today we are talking about listening to the call and paying attention to the things that your environment are telling you. So Corey, thanks for taking the time to hop on.
Thank you so much for having me.
You know, that one of the reasons I wanted Corey to come on is he's got a good story about, recognizing the path you're on. Right. I mean, in our leadership classes and Corey, in our conversations, we talked a little bit about how, there's a set expectation of how you get through life, right? You go to school, you take some tests, you get to another school, you take some more tests, you get a resume, you get a job, and you go in and you fit into your box. But our internet, our ability to be everywhere in the world, our ability to try ideas, that are diverse from wherever you're from, right? To experience life in a different way has changed dramatically over the last decade, at least.
Yeah.
And that curve is just going higher and higher. And I think you followed some of that path. So I don't want to steal your thunder, but I mean, how did you get from a place of sort of that corporate stepping stones, right, to the path you're on now?
Yeah. So after I graduated college, I went into healthcare investment banking, and I moved over to healthcare private equity after that. And during my mid-year, final year reviews, I was getting the same feedback consistently, which is you have incredible ideas. Your ability to bring together key experts into like a uniform path is great, but stick to the fundamentals of what you're supposed to do, right? Like stick to the Excels, the PowerPoints. I was the guy behind the computer working from 9 a.m. till 12 every night, color coding and, making sure that the number is tied.
Right.
And every time I would be in those reviews, I would think to myself, like, am I missing something or are they missing something? Like, should I be sticking with these numbers and, the elementary things, or is it possible that I just am a bigger ideas person and this is just not the right path for me? When I was in healthcare private equity, I was noticing something in the markets that I thought was unique. And I had an investment thesis that I wasn't testing because you're working 100-hour weeks,
Right.
but it was in the back of my mind. And every now and then I dip my toes in and I would invest in the markets in what my thesis was, call it 5 or 6 times. I did this over 2 or 3 years. And each time my thesis was correct. And then, we're in early March and COVID comes and we get locked down. And I remember I woke up one day and I looked myself in the mirror and I knew I'm in healthcare and I knew COVID wasn't a 1 to 2 week thing. I knew that this was going to be here for a while. And I said, now's your chance. So during the day, I was doing my day job till 10 at night. And then I would stay up till very early in the morning pursuing my beta test of what I thought I was seeing in the markets. Which high level is that there is a ton of opportunity in the public markets, specifically in healthcare and the lower middle markets, due to the fact that a lot of these companies are overlooked and undervalued because hedge funds don't have the mandate to invest in them because they're too small and not liquid enough. Equity research has no incentive to cover them because, again, there aren't that many people that invest in them. So for 6 months, I beta tested this and I proved my thesis out. And I was so fixated. And at this point, I was so fixated on what I knew that I knew, even though the people around me didn't know that I was beta testing this, that one day I walked up to my brothers and to my parents and I said, I'm quitting my job to start a hedge fund. Mostly everyone was not on board with that. But I knew I had to do it. I felt it. And so I quit my job and I started this hedge fund, which takes 10 weeks to formulate. And 2 weeks through, one of the companies that I had invested in gave me a call. The company was called Conversion Labs, and they said that they were doing a financing round to get uplisted to the NASDAQ from the OTC. And again, 2 weeks through a 10-week process to launch a hedge fund, but you can do something called a special purpose vehicle, which is you can raise money for one single investment, and that only takes like a week to set up. So I called my lawyer and I said, stop the hedge fund. We're switching to a special purpose vehicle. I'm putting all my eggs in this basket. I have that much faith in this company and what they're capable of doing. And he's like, you're crazy. You're putting everything on the line right now. I did it, raised the capital, invest in the company. The company got uplisted to NASDAQ, has done tremendous things, grew robustly. But right after I invested in the company, they wanted to thank me for helping them raise capital to get onto the NASDAQ. And I flew out to South Carolina to meet them. And we got along so well that I ended up packing my car in New York in the peak of COVID and moving to South Carolina for 6 months to help them build out their offices in South Carolina.
It's the honey trap, right? Like anytime you have successes, people want to drag all that success in and make sure that they hold on to it. Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I'll do 6 months as a consultant. I've never done operations before. A month through, they're like, can we get you to join full time? And I signed on as the chief business officer of that company, which is LifeMD, which is direct to consumer virtual primary care. And that was 14 months ago, and I've been the chief business officer since.
Yeah. Which is a hot field, by the way. Like the way we do healthcare is clearly broken.
Well, it's beyond broken, and it's been really interesting to watch this journey because people don't get it yet, and people continue to think that telehealth is a COVID fad. It's going away as COVID goes away. But the fact of the matter is, like, all right, well, talk to me about 20 years ago. If you were driving down the street, how many blockbusters did you see? Now it's Netflix. Like, talk to me about all the shopping centers. Today it's Amazon. Every industry digitizes, and there is so much in healthcare that is a problem, whether it's waiting rooms and how long it takes, whether it's not being able to see a doctor, whether it's them rushing in and out of the visit because they don't have time. Or affordability, quite frankly. But these are all things that can be fixed with digitizing healthcare, and that's what we're doing.
No, that's brilliant. So then, on the topic of following your dream or your passion or the call, what happened to the hedge fund? Like, what do you do with that while you take this new tangent? Is that okay? Are you able to let it go, or is it something that's in the backdrop that you're still going to build? Like, what do you do with that?
So when I joined LifeMD, the hedge fund remained, but it was just with my capital. I didn't raise outside capital. Right. Obviously, as an entrepreneur, I got the itch. So 3 months ago, I did reignite that process. And since then, I have relaunched the hedge fund. LifeMD, which is, again, a fast-growing healthcare tech company. When I joined, I was the 15th employee, maybe. Today, we have 250 plus employees. It's getting to the point where I can now phase myself out, and we can use the resources that we have. So,
no, and I think that's something that people get stuck in the trap of thinking that because they're doing something, everything else is dead. And it's a very young mindset, right? I mean, a real good, effective mindset is recognizing that I'm doing something, it builds to other things. It's like people in relationships that talk about, well, we drifted apart. No, you didn't. You both grew, you both evolved, you both, became something new, and good on you. The trick is to steer, right? So you grow in a parallel line, not in divergent lines.
Exactly right. Yeah.
And so, I mean, if you're able to still hold on to the hedge fund, but you're helping launch a company, I mean, clearly successful if it's gone from no employees to 200. That means that the time wasn't wasted. I mean, you accumulated a series of skills, you added to your tomb of knowledge, and at the same time, you held on to that thesis, which I assume the hedge fund is still operating on the kind of the same principles that you launched.
Yeah, it's actually, if I could go back, I wouldn't change a thing, to the point where investors, people who spend their whole life investing have, and I can say I didn't, have no idea what it takes to build a company until you're inside of that thing. Because what you see on the outside, what you see in the financials, what you see on the stock chart versus what is inside of a company, and the ups, the downs, that is the best experience you could possibly get. And so not only was that not a waste of time, like I wouldn't be who I am today without this. This was the best experience of my life.
Yeah. And I think that is something everyone who's got a side hustle or a side dream, needs to keep in mind, is that, and that is the battlefield for the boardroom today. So, man, thanks for joining.
Thank you so much. This has been great.
Yeah. All right, cool, man. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks a lot.